for Britney Spears. A lot of those signs saying free Britney, that they love Britney Spears, showing her their support to her. And again, we just had in a month ago almost now, recent court testimony. Spears publicly detailed her experience under this conservatorship. But once again, we are going to be back into the courtrooms here today as she's hired a new attorney. Let's bring in our own attorney, Robert Sewell, who is going to be here with us. And Robert, let's just first begin with this conservatorship. It really does kind of differ case by case, which makes it hard to know exactly when this could come to an end.
Is based on the facts, and you have to determine whether this person has a permanent condition or a temporary condition. And with Britney Spears, it's very interesting because back in 2008, she was inside a hospital, and now she is living on her own. She has independent relationships. She goes on tour. So these are interesting factors, and this is definitely a case that could go either way.
So let's just talk about what's going to be happening today. You know, she is going to be hiring her own lawyer. And so what can we expect to hear from today's court case?
There are a few things that we know are going to happen in this court case today. So it's a hearing, and they're going to discuss whether or not a guardian ad litem is going to be appointed for Britney Spears. Her counsel have resigned. They no longer want to be her counsel. And Britney wants to appoint her own counsel. Now, last time, back in 2008, Britney's counsel was appointed by the court. The court chose who would be her counsel. Well, sometimes that's okay, and especially if you don't have the confidence to have your own counsel. But the attorney-client relationship is really personal, and you need to be able to trust who is your counsel, and your strategies need to be cohesive. You know, you have to really have a good relationship. So she wants her own counsel. Now, the question is, does she have the confidence to choose her own counsel? And so what Jody Montgomery, her temporary conservator, has done is she said, Judge, why don't you appoint a guardian ad litem, someone who could, you know, help Britney make a decision and also inform the court whether or not she has the ability to make a decision.
Now, these conservative... Yeah, you know, these conservatorships really are put in place in the beginning to protect people. And we've heard from some of the folks who have been testifying before when they placed this, you know, we really thought we were doing what's best for her. Talk about just how rare it is, or I'm sure it is case by case, but for this to be continuing on for 13 years, is that something usual?
Yeah, you know, it really depends. Like I said, it's case by case. Do we have a mental health condition that is temporary, that was because of certain facts that were happening in a person's life? Maybe it was due to drug use or incapacity. I'm not saying that Britney was using drugs or anything like that, but those are just generally speaking, when you have these situational scenarios, you could overcome the conservatorship by just making life changes. But when you have a permanent disability, say, you know, a mental illness just not going away, that could be for the rest of your life. And so what a judge has to do is weigh those facts. What's going on in this particular case? But it's more than that in Britney Spears' case, because a conservatorship needs to be the least restrictive possible. And so you could have a conservatorship, but with very few restrictions. And it could be that Britney would want to just push those restrictions back, gain more control, keep the conservatorship, but just gain more control in her life, and eventually push out the conservatorship. So that might be somewhere that she goes in the future with new counsel.
Now, one thing that I thought was unique and kind of rare, I wanted to get your opinion on, was back in June after she did this testimony, we got to hear her speak for quite a length amount of time. Nothing else has really been filed since that time. So what does she need to do? What steps are going to be needing to be taken for her to get this conservatorship taken off?
Yeah, so she's going to have to get new counsel, file a new petition. It could be that she needs to get more experts involved. So someone who would say, yeah, she had a particular condition at this one time, but now she doesn't. Or say, this expert says she has a particular condition now, but she doesn't need all these restraints. Give her more freedom. So those are the types of things a good expert are going to help Brittany do. It's also important that you have counsel that's on board with that strategy, someone who really believes that this is possible and can move her to the next step.
And I just have to ask because we have to be fair, do you think that this could all be a game to get her back into the spotlight? What are your thoughts on that?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm not a celebrity guy, but you know, it's, I guess I suppose it's possible, but this is deadly serious. A conservatorship is incredibly serious and it restricts her life. And her testimony was pretty heart wrenching. I mean, she said, I want to have, I want to come off birth control. I don't want to be forced onto medication. That's serious. To be able to make medication and medical decisions for yourself, to be able to decide what happens to your own womb, I mean, that's serious stuff. I would imagine this is very serious to Brittany beyond the celebrity. She doesn't need to have this.
Yeah, I mean, it would take a lot for someone to be making up all of these accusations that she had, especially during that testimony. And do you believe that she'll be out in the public's face speaking more on this in the future? Because as we know, they've limited her talking about this out in public since she is under the conservatorship. She's not been able to talk about it. Are we expecting to hear more from her as these court cases do continue to move along?
If I were her counsel, I would tell her, leave the conservatorship to the courtroom. But she does her own thing. I know she has a pretty strong social media presence. She does her own Instagram and Facebook, I'm certain. Those types of things would continue, and I would encourage her to continue because it shows that she manages her own life. And the more you could show that you manage your own life, make financial decisions, make healthy relationship decisions, stay in a mentally a good space, the more you show that's what you're doing, the less likely a conservatorship becomes necessary. But talking about the conservatorship in the public sphere, probably not a good idea.
Right. Yeah. And, she did a good job in her testimony back in June, talking about the sadness, the frustration, the anger that she's had surrounding it without trying to get too emotional. I know she was a speedy talker, which we can all relate to when you get excited or nervous or frustrated about something. But it'll be interesting to see where this continues along. At least I think the biggest thing, Bob, is just that people are talking about it and showing that they do care about her well-being, whether it be stay under the conservatorship, but maybe adjust what's going on, who's in charge, or maybe even removing it.
Yeah, these issues are, like I said, deadly serious. It's something that I've talked about and I really want to educate the public about on my own podcast. Is that even legal? And the reason is because people need to understand that when the government gets in your life, it's hard to get them out of your life. And you don't really want the government in your life in most situations. These are really unique situations. And, through a little planning, through a little care, a lot of times they could be avoided. And so, yeah, if I was Brittany, I'd be fighting against this. I'd want to have my own support structure, one that I chose.
Right. Yeah. And of course, it's going to be something we all continue to follow along as it happens. And do want to say thank you, Bob Sewell, for joining us live here on Live Now from Fox, helping give us a little insight to exactly what conservatorship is and what we can expect from these outcomes of these court hearings.
Thank you for having me on, Christy.
All right. And as we said, there is a rally going on in D.C. So